Hey everyone, it's Monica and welcome back to Homeschool Voices. Today I'm going to talk about writing and why I think it's best taught in a homeschool setting. If you want to be an educated person, you need to be fluent in your native language. And the best way to do that is first to learn how to read, then to become well-read, and then to learn how to write. There are two big reasons why it's important to write. And one reason you may not have thought of. That reason is it teaches you how to think. When we learn how to write, a lot of times we discover that our ideas are not so well fleshed out. We think our ideas are so good and we have strong opinions, but a lot of times we find that those opinions are pretty emotional and that they're not based on many facts, if any at all. If you are not able to clearly articulate your ideas and present them in a way that is understandable and logical and convincing, perhaps, then I question the ideas that you have in your head. And I think the process of learning how to write helps you to become clear on all sorts of different topics. It trains you to become more of a thinker, really. And so a person who doesn't know how to write or doesn't write well may not have very well fleshed out ideas. You really need to put those ideas in front of you to see if they really make sense, to see if they hold water. And a lot of us haven't learned how to write well. I only learned in college, and I didn't learn from a teacher. I learned from who is now my husband, and he would edit everything for me. And through that process of him editing, making notes, then I would go back and begin to see patterns. Every time I would write something, I would see patterns of the kind of notes that he would make, and it was a bit of a process, but eventually I learned to write pretty well. And in that process of learning how to write, I really learned how to think. And I think that is one of the two big reasons why it is essential that everyone learn how to write. But the other big reason we all need to learn how to write is because we need to be able to communicate effectively with other people. We need to express our ideas in a way that other people can understand. If I write a story and no one can understand it, what's the point? If I write an article and no one can even follow my line of thinking, why bother? Why spend the time? If I'm upset about any number of things, there's all kinds of things, and you might write to someone and say, hey, I'm upset about this and I want this change to happen, but you can't express your ideas in a convincing or even understandable way, why bother? And how sad is that? You want to be able to communicate effectively with other people, and this is the other major reason that we learn how to write. So learning to write is an involved process. If somebody is mentoring you, it takes time. It is not a quick process. So with that in mind, imagine you are a teacher with 30 kids. How are you going to have enough time to really teach those kids to write? I don't think that you are going to have enough time. I think it's going to be next to impossible. And this is not to disparage teachers in any way. I think that they're amazing. I really don't think that I could handle so many children. Teachers are not really dealing with the ideal. What they're doing is very difficult, and I'm glad they're doing it because not everyone can homeschool. There are situations where people just can't do it and they just can't make it work. So I'm glad that teachers are there to do as good a job as they can do with all of those kids, and I think they do a pretty darn good job. But I think that one parent and like 2 or 3 kids is obviously a more ideal scenario. And if you are teaching your kids to write, you are going to have to take time with them that a teacher just cannot take. They do not have the time. So what if you really don't know how to write? Number one, I would suggest that you find a mentor, because for you as a person, it's not about writing even. I think the most important thing that I said before was it really teaches you how to just think more clearly and flesh out your ideas, and it feels good to have your ideas fleshed out. So find somebody who's a mentor who might consider, looking over something that you write once a month or even once every 2 months. So a lot of you might really not know how to start when you're thinking about mentoring your kids with writing. Don't make it too complicated. One thing I've learned over the years, and it's funny because sports has really taught me this, is that you just find something to work on and work on it. Okay? So your kids don't have to be perfect. Just find something to work on. Have them write something and don't try to make it perfect. Maybe you're just working on good handwriting. Maybe you just want it to be legible. Okay? Maybe now we're going to start making sure the beginnings of our sentences are capitalized. Then we're going to start adding commas and periods. Then we're going to make paragraphs. One thing that you can do is have your child dictate a story or anything to you, and you can type it out correctly, and then they can copy it. That's a really good method. And it takes a lot of the pressure off of kids, and it doesn't make it seem so overwhelming. And again, as they get older, just take things one step at a time. There should always be some sort of introduction, whether it's a story or an article or an argumentative paper. There should always be some sort of paragraph that introduces whatever it is. At the end, there should be some sort of ending. And then the paragraph should all be on a topic. And when you switch ideas or you switch topics, you make a new paragraph. This is not a formulaic way of writing, so some of you who are used to a formulaic way of writing, you might not like my suggestions, but writing doesn't have to be so confusing. And then, of course, there should be transition sentences that transition from one idea in the previous paragraph to the next idea in the next paragraph. A lot of us were raised on this very formulaic way of writing, which again is simply a way to make papers easier to grade for teachers who have a classroom with 30 kids and they're just trying to make it work in some fashion. It's so hard. So they're trying to make it quantifiable, right? Do they have an introduction? Do they have 3 body paragraphs? Do they have a conclusion? You don't need to do that. You do need some sort of introduction, some sort of conclusion. And then you can have 2 paragraphs, you can have 7 paragraphs, but the paragraph should generally be on a certain topic, but they don't have to have a topic sentence and then that's way too formulaic. When you read any kind of article in a magazine, they're never written like that. No one writes like that in the real world. That's only a way for teachers really to be able to grade and to be able to teach writing, because it is a little nuanced and confusing. But like I said, just take things one step at a time. You might just work on metaphors one day. You might have them write about anything. We'll say photosynthesis. They'll write a paper on photosynthesis, and you might tell them to include 3 metaphors. That might be all you work on that day. So don't get overwhelmed by it, because your kids will get overwhelmed by it. Just make sure you are working on writing regularly and that you are just picking something to improve on regularly. Do not try to make everything perfect. You'll make writing miserable for your kids, and you'll make it overwhelming for both you and your kids. If you don't feel that you can mentor your children with their writing, then you should get a tutor or find someone who will do it for free. Maybe a family member. This is a matter of sending a document to somebody and having them write notes in red writing so it's obvious where the notes are. That's all it takes. Once it happens over and over, the child will learn what kind of mistakes they tend to make regularly, and they will learn not to make those mistakes, and they will get better and better. That just dawned on me that the school setting is not ideal for teaching writing, and writing is so crucial to teaching a person how to really think and how to express their ideas effectively and how to communicate with other people. And I thought, geez, even if you've sent your kids to school, help them write. Be their mentor or find a mentor for them, because it's not enough for them to go to school. They're just very unlikely to become a good writer unless they're just naturally gifted at it. So that's about it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you liked it, please click thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, please click the subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. In the meantime, happy homeschooling and have a great day.